I was sitting in a small mediation room at the Lynn County Courthouse when my wife's lawyer suddenly stopped talking. He stared at the papers in his hands like they had just started breathing. Across the table, my wife, Paula, smiled until the color drained from her face. That was the moment I knew this was finally over. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't gloat. I just sat there, hands folded, letting the truth finish its work. But that day didn't start at a courthouse. It started earlier, with my 4-year-old daughter in the backseat of my truck. I picked Emily up from daycare on a Wednesday afternoon. It was the kind of Iowa afternoon that smells like cold leaves and diesel exhaust. Cedar Rapids did its usual thing, traffic crawling along Edgewood Road, a high V sign flickering in the distance, the sky already thinking about snow. Emily climbed into her booster seat, kicking her little sneakers against the door. "Daddy," she said in that careful way kids use when they're about to ask something important, "can we go to Felix's house today?" I glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "Felix's house?" She nodded. "Yeah, Mom takes me there after school." I didn't answer right away. I pulled onto the road, checked my mirrors, and asked cautiously, "Why?" She shrugged like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "Me and Felix watch the iPad while Mommy works with Felix's dad." The light turned green. I pressed the gas a little harder than I meant to. I kept my eyes on the road, but something inside my chest shifted, like a heavy toolbox sliding loose in the back of the truck. "What kind of work?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. Emily swung her legs. "I don't know. Mommy has papers. Felix's dad laughs a lot. They have a big swing set. Mommy pushes me sometimes." I didn't say anything after that. The rest of the drive passed in silence, broken only by the hum of the engine and the click of Emily's seatbelt as she leaned forward to look out the window. At a stoplight, I caught my reflection in the glass of a closed storefront. 56 years old, gray working its way into my hair, hands thick and scarred from 30 years as an electrician, hands that had wired half the houses in this town without ever cheating a man out of $1, hands that were suddenly shaking. Paula and I had been married 24 years. We met when Cedar Rapids still felt smaller, when people stayed put and didn't reinvent themselves every 5 minutes. We bought our first house on a quiet street near Ellis Park. I still remember the day we moved in, Paula standing in the kitchen with a paintbrush, grinning like a kid as she rolled pale blue onto the walls. "This color makes it feel like a fresh start," she said. We were a team back then, or at least, I thought we were. Lately, Paula said she was doing freelance bookkeeping, just helping a few small businesses. She told me, flexible hours, cash flow was better than it used to be. I didn't question it. I trusted my wife. That night, Paula came home later than usual. She set her purse down a little too carefully, kissed Emily on the head, and said, "Long day." I noticed the smell first. Not bad, just unfamiliar. Something sweet that didn't belong to our laundry detergent or my aftershave. I wanted to ask. I didn't. After Emily went to bed, Paula opened her laptop at the kitchen table. I stood at the sink, rinsing a coffee mug I hadn't finished. "You okay?" she asked without looking up. "Fine," I said. That was the first lie I told myself. Sleep didn't come easy. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the house settle, to Paula's breathing beside me. Around midnight, I slipped out of bed and padded into the living room. I opened the family calendar on my phone, birthdays, appointments, Emily's daycare schedule. And then I saw it. A repeating block 3 days a week, same time, same name. Mark, 1:30 p.m. No note, no explanation, just a name. I sat there in the dark, foam glowing in my hands, and felt something harden in my chest. Not anger. Not yet. Resolve. I didn't wake Paula. I didn't confront her. I didn't do anything dramatic. I told myself one thing over and over: don't accuse without proof. The next morning, I dropped Emily off at daycare like nothing had changed. I went to work, wired a breaker panel, joked with a guy about the Hawkeyes, drank bad gas station coffee, but I left early. I parked my truck in the lot of our local credit union, engine off. Coffee cooling in the cup holder. From there, I could see the street Emily had mentioned. At 1:27 p.m., Paula's minivan turned the corner. At 1:30, she pulled into the driveway of a neat little house with a swing set in the backyard. She got out carrying a folder, and she didn't come back out for 2 hours. I watched from behind my windshield, heart pounding, hands clenched so tight my knuckles hurt. This wasn't a daycare drop-off. This wasn't a quick meeting. This was a routine. And standing there in my old truck, with the radio turned off and the afternoon light slanting across the dash, I realized something I didn't want to admit. Whatever my wife was doing at another man's house, it had been going on a long time. I told myself it was just one afternoon. Coincidences happen. Schedules overlap. People help people. That's what I told myself the first time. The second time, I told myself I was being careful. By the third time, I knew I was lying. The following week, I adjusted my hours without saying a word. That's one advantage of being an electrician who's paid his dues. Nobody asks many questions when you say you're done early. I grabbed a coffee at Casey's, the kind that tastes burnt no matter what time of day it is, and parked again at the credit union. Same spot, same angle. At 1:28 p.m., Paula's minivan rolled by. She didn't look around. She didn't hesitate. She pulled into that driveway like she'd done it 100 times. I checked my watch. She walked up to the door with Emily's backpack over one shoulder and a slim folder tucked under her arm. No rush, no awkward pause, just a quick turn of her wrist, and the door opened. She didn't knock. She let herself in. That detail hit me harder than anything else. People don't use keys at houses they barely visit. I sat there for a long time after she disappeared inside. Long enough for my coffee to go cold. Long enough for the sun to shift and glare across the windshield. Long enough to start noticing the small, stupid things your brain latches onto when it's trying not to scream. A wind chime on the porch. A tricycle tipped over in the yard. A curtain moving upstairs. At 3:31 p.m., the front door opened again. Paula came out smiling. Not a big smile, just an easy one. The kind you wear when you're comfortable. When you're not worried about who's watching. Emily skipped down the steps behind her, laughing, waving something plastic in the air. Paula bent down, brushed dirt off Emily's knee, kissed her hair. Then she loaded her into the van and drove away. I didn't follow. I stayed there, staring at the house, feeling like I'd just watched my own life from the wrong side of a window. By Friday, the pattern was undeniable. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, always around 1:30, always 2 hours. I started writing it down in a small notebook I kept in the glove compartment. Nothing fancy, just dates and times. The kind of notes a man takes when he doesn't trust his own memory anymore. One afternoon, as I was leaving Casey's with another bad coffee, the cashier, a woman I'd known for years, made an offhand comment. "Your wife's still helping that Benson guy, right?" she said while handing me my change. I froze for half a second. Helping who? "Mark Benson," she said. "Construction fellow. Nice enough. I see Paula's van over there all the time." "All the time," she repeated, like it meant nothing at all. I nodded, forced a smile, and walked out. Mark Benson. Now the name had a face. I knew him vaguely. Ran a small remodeling outfit. Did decks and basements. The kind of guy who wore clean boots to job sites and talked big about staying local. Divorced, I thought. One kid, Felix. That night, Paula complained about her back hurting. Said she'd been hunched over numbers all day. I nodded. Made dinner. Cleaned up. "Busy week," she said. "Sounds like it," I replied. The lies were getting easier. That scared me. Spreadsheets and deadlines became my new world. The second stage of this careful investigation happened late at night and stretched into the early hours of the morning. Screenshots, downloads, dates, amounts, every tiny detail cataloged until the numbers blurred together. I printed copies at work and tucked them into a folder in my truck toolbox. Each page felt heavier than the last. I backed up the files on a flash drive Ray had given me, hiding it in a spot Paula would never think to check. I learned more than I wanted to know. About her. About him. About the quiet ways people can bend truth until it's almost unrecognizable. Paula wasn't just doing Mark's books. She was cleaning them, relabeling expenses, shuffling money between accounts to make things look neat, professional, tidy. She was good at it. Too good. The kind of skill that made everything seem legitimate, even while it wasn't. Then Ray called me one evening. The kind of call that makes you put down your tools mid-task. He sounded different when I walked into his office, more serious, more deliberate than usual. No jokes, no small talk, no casual nods to old times. "There's something you need to see," he said, turning his laptop toward me. He pointed at a line item in one of the transfers. It referenced a job number I recognized instantly, a remodel I'd wired 2 years earlier, a project I had built under my own company name. My name was on the paperwork. My hands went cold. "Dennis," Ray said carefully, "if this ever blows up, your name being connected to this is going to matter." I stared at the screen, my own signature glaring back at me from a document I had trusted. That was the moment I understood something vital. This wasn't just about Paula anymore. It was about protecting myself, my reputation, and most of all, my daughter from being dragged into a mess that wasn't hers. And I realized, with a clarity that burned, that if I didn't handle this carefully, I could lose more than my marriage. I could lose everything I'd worked for. Living with the truth is harder than discovering it. Once you know, every ordinary moment gains a razor edge, every word feels rehearsed, every gesture calculated, every smile borrowed from someone else's script. Paula talked more than usual that week about her work stress, about clients who didn't understand how lucky they were to have her, about how tired she felt at the end of the day. I nodded. I cooked dinner. I asked Emily about preschool. I practiced breathing through lies like a soldier learning a new drill. Friday night was the church fish fry, the kind of ritual you attend because it's always been there. Folding tables, styrofoam plates, the smell of hot oil mixed with overbrewed coffee that had been sitting too long on the warmer. Paula claimed a headache and stayed home. I went alone. I sat near the wall, watching familiar faces laugh and argue about Hawkeye's games, stirring my coffee until it was cold and bitter. Ray slid into the seat across from me without asking. "You holding up?" he asked. I shrugged. "Depends on the minute." He nodded like he understood exactly what that meant. Then I heard Mark Benson's voice before I saw him, loud, confident, carrying across the room. He stood near the raffle table, laughing and chatting with a couple of guys I recognized. "Best thing I ever did was get my books cleaned up," Mark said, grinning. "Saved me a fortune in headaches." Someone laughed. Someone clapped him on the shoulder. I felt a knot tighten in my gut. He didn't notice me at first. When he did, his smile didn't falter. He came over. That easy, self-assured stride of someone who believes the world owes him nothing less than attention. "Dennis, right?" he said. "You wired that basement for me a while back. Solid work." "Thanks," I muttered. He leaned closer. "You ever need anything, let me know. Always good to have reliable people." Reliable. That word settled into my chest like a cold weight. I watched him walk away, untouched by any awareness of the storm he'd helped stir. People like him mistake silence for weakness, and for a long time, that could have been true of me. Later, Emily crawled into my lap while I watched the weather report, still warm from her bath. She smelled like shampoo and crayons, that innocent scent that made the world feel lighter for a second. "Daddy," she said softly, "Mommy's friend is nice." I swallowed hard. "Who's that, kiddo?" "Felix's dad," she said. "He says, Mommy is smart. He says they're happy." Her words hit harder than any adult confrontation could. I tucked her in, lingering at the edge of her bed long after she fell asleep, listening to her soft breathing, feeling the weight of deception pressing against my chest. I thought about money, about trust, about how easily a life could unravel when lies hide behind love. That night, half asleep, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. A notification. Joint account update requested. Authorization pending. I sat up, heart hammering. Paula was trying to change access quietly, efficiently, like a shadow moving through a familiar room. I slipped into the dark hallway, phone glowing in my hand. I could hear her breathing in the bedroom, steady, unbothered. For a moment, I wanted to wake her, demand answers, end the pretense. Instead, I went to the living room, opened my notes, double-checked the files, and made sure everything was exactly where it needed to be. By morning, the urge to explode had burned itself out. What remained wasn't anger. It was clarity. Paula wasn't just hiding anymore. She was preparing for a fight, and that meant it was time to finish what I'd started carefully, legally. In a place where the truth couldn't hide. The Lynn County Courthouse smells like old paper and disinfectant. Always has. I'd wired lights in buildings just like it all over eastern Iowa, places meant to feel calm while lives quietly fell apart inside. Paula walked in 10 minutes late, heels clicking too loud on the tile. She looked confident, put together, the kind of confidence people wear when they believe the story already belongs to them. Her lawyer followed, soft voice and practiced smile, like this was all routine. I sat at the table, hands folded, quiet. The mediator shuffled papers. A small American flag leaned crooked in the corner, the clock ticking loud enough to count seconds. Mr. and Mrs. Klein, the mediator said, clearing his throat. Let's begin. Paula spoke first, always did. She detailed stress, misunderstandings, my suspicious and unreasonable behavior. She painted herself as a professional, a helper, someone the world owed understanding. I watched her hands, steady, controlled, practiced. Then her lawyer slid a proposal across the table. Asset division, suggestions for me to step back, a framework designed to protect her story. My chest tightened, but I remained still. When Paula finished, the room went quiet. The mediator turned to me. Mr. Klein? I nodded once. I'd like to respond, I said, and opened my folder. The sound of paper on the table carried in that still room like a gunshot. I read slowly, deliberately. Dates, times, transfers. I didn't accuse. I didn't editorialize. I just read. Paula's smile faded after the third page. Her lawyer leaned forward, frowning. The mediator adjusted his glasses. When I reached the transfers labeled consulting, Paula spoke. That's out of context, she said quickly. Those were reimbursements. I slid another page across. This, I said evenly, is the account those reimbursements went to. Her lawyer's face tightened. The mediator's eyebrows rose. Then I reached the part Ray had warned me about. The funds here, I said, tapping the page. Match deposits made from our joint account, earmarked for retirement, for our daughter's education. Paula stood so fast her chair scraped the floor. You don't understand what you're looking at, she snapped. Dennis, sit down, her lawyer urged. I didn't move. The door opened. Mark Benson walked in, annoyed, like someone dragged from something better. He smiled at Paula, but froze when he saw the papers. What is this? He demanded, grabbing a copy. Why is my company name on your joint account statements? Paula turned toward him, eyes wide. Mark, just listen. No, he snapped. You said this was clean. The room shifted. You could feel it. Mark looked to the mediator. She handled my books. I trusted her. Paula laughed, short and brittle. Don't you dare put this on me. Mark's face went pale. Miss Klein, I need you to answer the question, the mediator said firmly. Her voice broke. I was helping him, that's all. I looked at her. I was just doing my work. Paula, same as you. She stared at me like she'd never seen me before. Mark pushed his chair back. I want my attorney, now. Paula stormed toward the door. Her lawyer caught her arm. You may be facing more than a divorce, he said, low and urgent. She froze, and for the first time in years, the room held no smiles. The courthouse emptied slowly. Life went on, indifferent, but I stayed seated, hands steady, surprised by the calm. What I felt wasn't victory or anger. It was light. Something heavy had finally been set down. Paula didn't come home that night. She texted once, we'll talk later. I didn't reply. Emily and I ate pancakes for dinner, laughing when the first batch burned. Later, I watched her sleep, the same gentle rise and fall of her chest I'd watched as a baby. I didn't need to explain what had happened. Kids need stability. They need someone paying attention. Weeks passed quietly, accounts secured, paperwork moving, everything procedural and boring, exactly as it should be. Conversations with Paula, through lawyers, were brief, careful, devoid of drama. Mark Benson disappeared from our orbit entirely. Ray stopped by one evening with a six-pack, said little. He didn't need to. I'd done it right. That's not easy. On a cold Iowa evening, I sat on the front steps of the house Paula once painted blue. Emily colored inside. The sky burned orange over rooftops. I thought about how close I'd come to exploding, to accusing without proof, to losing control. Revenge isn't yelling or humiliation. It's patience, truth, protecting those who can't yet protect themselves. I didn't win by destroying Paula. I won by keeping my hands clean and my daughter's future intact.